I'm very psyched for this conversation.
Yes.
But I'm going to try and not just use it for like my own personal gains and try and make it interesting for my audience. Shall I go then, Steve? Hello and welcome to another episode of But Why, the podcast that's all about digging into big questions and tricky topics via honest conversations. And this week we're going to be looking at astrology, which I'm a bit delighted about because I try and weave it into loads of things that apparently seem unrelated, but this time I can go out and out. And I'm going to be talking to Francesca Oddie. Francesca is on a mission to bring life-changing insights of real astrology to as many people as possible. And a bit on her background, which is quite impressive. Francesca read natural sciences, biochemistry, philosophy and theology at Durham University. That's an awful lot. Before moving to Rome to work as a tour guide at the Vatican museums. And then there was lots of other further education, including studying astrology, palmistry, tarot, numerology with the London School of Astrology and the College of Psychic and the College of Psychic Studies. She's been featured absolutely everywhere, it feels like. She's one of those people that I started following and then you pop up everywhere. Refinery 29, The Telegraph, El Grazia, Women's Health, and frequently on the radio and occasionally on TV. And she's one of those people that I find a really great addition to my Instagram scroll, which you can't say about that many people. So without further ado, let's get cracking. Now, I always start with 3 questions. How are you really? What's your star sign, which for you is a bit of a
cool
basic bitch question, and what's your favourite crisp?
How am I really? Also, hello, thank you. That was a really cringe intro.
It's awful, excruciating, isn't
It's horrible, especially because I wrote it. It's just horrendous. I'm like, when did I write this? Why did I write this? Yeah, how am I? Good. I am genuinely good. This week has been... I've thought I'd turn my emails off. This week is so busy. A full moon week is always busy. And it's just nuts busy, but I'm enjoying it all. I am a Sagittarius, and my favourite crisp would probably be squares. Can I have squares?
Yeah, but could you be more specific? Ready salted?
Ready salted.
Yeah. I mean, do they come in different flavours? They do.
They're a blue one and a green one, and they're not good.
To be honest, I think that anything in the Walkers... they're Smith squares.
There's something else. Can you even get them anymore?
Oh, I don't know. Let's tell ourselves that we can, because otherwise it'd be really sad.
It's a good question.
Those kind of things are not very natural probably, but they were delicious.
And what is your favourite crisp?
I mean, I just this just makes me sound really old. I really like a ready salted Walkers.
No, same. If I'm going to have a cider or a rosé in the summer, then I want ready salted.
Yeah, I mean, to be any classic Walkers, I'd always... I mean, I really like crisps, actually, is the truth of it. But I don't like kettle chips, which is a bit controversial.
No, I don't. They're too thick, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very hard.
Not into them.
What, as well as Saggy, what else is in your chart?
Moon in Taurus, rising Gemini.
Wow.
Mars in Aquarius, Venus in Capricorn. I'll leave it there. What about you? You've got Aquarius, haven't you?
I've got my Mars in Aquarius, my Venus is in Capricorn.
Oh, same.
But I'm a Pisces, Libra rising, Aries moon.
Aries moon.
Yeah, which is in such conflict with the Pisces.
Yeah, but quite handy. I've got so many Pisces friends with loads of Aries in their chart. And it's quite handy because Pisces would, maybe not be that effective.
No, I'd drift around in my own mind indefinitely. But what happens is I'm so conscious of that when the Aries hits, I go with it because I know I have to. Otherwise, I never get anywhere and then hate myself for it.
Yeah, I know. A struggle. But it's good. Once you forgive yourself, Pisces is very forgiving. So it's fine.
Yeah, no, I was very premature. I'm not going to just make this about me. So I was nearly 8 weeks early. So I should have been an Aries if I'd have gone full term. And so I always felt like I more related to Aries actually before I knew more about astrology. And then that kind of made sense to me that it does still sit in my chart once I became to understand.
Yeah, that happens all the time. My cousin, premature Aries, with loads of Taurus in his chart. It will still be there. And the moon is who we are as a woman. So, you're an Aries.
Yeah. But I've got... and the rest of my chart is loads and loads of Libra. Loads and loads and
Oh,
loads.
right. Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I was just looking because I saw you posted about the 27.
Mm.
What's it? And like the top half of the circle is entirely empty for me.
Oh, you're private. Are you private?
Well, this is what's always interesting. I have obviously a profile, so I'm quite public, but the really true stuff
is never going to be
very
known.
few people get to, especially with Capricorn and Venus.
Exactly.
It's like,
you took the words from my mouth.
Yeah, but that's what you are as well. But you know, Capricorn's a sensitive folk along the way as well.
Massively, morbidly sensitive. No one's going to know what's going on with. I can spot, I know I can see it in other people because it takes one to know one. But other than that, I don't think people see it.
No, I've got a lot of time for Capricorns.
Yes, not easy.
No, it's not. Right, let's ladder back and not go straight into it. Tell me how you got into astrology, I guess, if that's the right thing, and like what role it plays in your life. I mean, now it's your entire career, but before that.
Well, went in stages, probably like a lot. I do think a lot of women relate to like always being vaguely interested in astrology. And I was definitely in that camp for ages. And then when I got to uni, I dated two guys who were like turbo similar, both Scorpio, born at sunrise, exactly a year apart. And that was, I was starting to see patterns in my life in the people I was drawing in, my school friends and my uni friends. And it was starting to be like, this is really a thing. And because I remember everybody's birthday, I could really have everybody in a sort of section in my head. And I was like, there is something in this. And then when I lived in Italy, the Italians were really into it. So
Are they?
Well, much more. Like a lot of men will ask you your rising sign. So they'll be like, what's your star sign? And then, yeah. So I had, quite a few just people just be like, yeah, and what's your ascendente? Like it's just part of the hello sometimes. And I just learned mine, and I started to really see that. I started to be able to really see rising signs. And then I was just relentless because I just asked everybody what time they were born and worked out their rising sign. But I didn't know anything other than sun and rising, but I still was obsessed. Then I kind of got to the moon, blah, blah. And when I was 29 at my Saturn return, I was at a networking event and I met a psychic who told me loads of stuff. And then we went to get our coats and I was like, when's your birthday? And then I was like, were you born at 8 p.m? And she was like, yes, how do you know? And so then she told me I was an astrologer and I should be an astrologer. And I didn't know how to do it. So I emailed Shelley von Strunkel, who was writing horoscopes in the Times and the only astrologer human I knew in existence. And very kindly, her PA replied to me and said, you need to go to the London School of Astrology. So then I did that.
Amazing.
Because I didn't know. Like, there's loads of astrology schools. There's like 3 in London, but it never occurred to me as a thing.
Well, I mean, it's difficult to know. It's like anything that you get into, then it's very visible. But I do think there's been a real transition collectively. I mean, I guess probably Instagram. Yeah. Because if you think of early astrology, or the only access to it I had was like Mystic Meg, which is utterly made up, I think. Sorry, Mystic Meg, if you are the real deal.
I think she is, A lot of the astrologers I know her and used to work on her phone lines. She was an astrologer. But she was obviously mediated up and told to...
Yeah, and made into like a caricature of herself. And then it's that thing, isn't it? And people are very quick to dismiss it, I think, because it's easier. But I started kind of out of curiosity and then a bit of a joke. And then you start asking people their birth charts. And then it begins to add up to more than you can dismiss, doesn't it?
Yeah, it gets a bit weird. Even when I was studying, they'd say things like, oh, I've got my teacher had the moon in Virgo and his friend has moon in Sag. And when they got their coffees, the Virgo one would always be small and the Sag one would be big. And I was like, oh, come on, you're taking it too far now. But it filtered into every aspect of your life and it's mental.
So for anyone listening, just to rewind, if you have zero understanding of astrology, could you just explain sun, moon and rising? Because I think that helps people begin to unpick it a bit.
Good point. Yeah, so the sun sign is your star sign. So when we say your star sign, we're talking about which section of the sky the sun was moving through. Now, that's because astrologers pretend that Earth is the middle of the universe and the sun's moving around us, but it doesn't matter. From our perspective, that's what it looks like. And the constellations and the stars are just the backdrop. So today is the 17th of Feb. So behind the sun, if we could see the constellation, would be Aquarius. But we can't see it because the sun's there, so it's light. And then all the other planets in the solar system are moving through the sky at different speeds, and they're all, from our perspective, passing through different sections of the zodiac sign. So then you can ask, where was your moon, as in which sign of the zodiac is it sort of against? And then so the moon is who you are deep down. It's who you are as a woman, or it's the type of female energy you attract into your life. We all have a masculine and a feminine. We all have the sun and the moon. And in general, women are going to connect more with their lunar energy because it's about mothering and nurturing and feeding and connecting and the feminine. And in general and historically, our masculine energy, our sun, particularly like 300 years ago, 200 years ago, would be your husband and your father as a woman, and that would be it. Or it's the type of man you are and how you assert yourself. Obviously, these days, what we want is to be all of it. We want to be rounded. We want to be balanced. But there's still a sort of animus in Jungian
terms.
Thanks. Terms. Mm-hmm. And then the rising sign is how you appear. Basically, it's the mask you wear in a new situation. It's the persona.
Yeah, I know. Once you understand your understanding it all is very helpful, but understanding your rising and understanding how people perceive you versus what your internal dialogue is like a really huge thing it's a real gift to yourself to begin to understand that, isn't it?
Massive gift. Really, really. Because you're not being told anything you didn't already know.
No.
And you're just like, why am I like this? Particularly if you've got a conflict, like, if you've got a very chatty persona, but deep down you're quite sensitive, but people don't see it, but you knew it, but you didn't. None of us really. I just remember being 19 and being like, why am I like this?
Yeah, especially I know I've got a lot of Libra rising friends who act like who you would think everything's going easy breezy from them, and I know what their moon signs are. I was like, oh no, to achieve that easy breeziness, whether that's Virgos or whatever, they're having to work extremely hard.
Yeah, and apparently, according to evolutionary astrology, I just learned this: we are becoming our rising sign. It's really a job for us to become. That's like the growth. This is what Cleopatra was saying when I was in Mexico. Like the moon, you've got a PhD in your moon because it's our basic instinct. So we're going to go to that behavior simply because we're like expert. And then our sun sign, we've got a master's degree in it. Like we really know it a lot. And then the rising sign is where we need to go and go and develop that. So
that's really
quite like
that's
that.
really useful, isn't it? So if people have sometimes double, sometimes triple, so all three of the same, do you think
quite rare.
That makes for a bit of an easier existence in some ways?
Yeah, it's quite rare, but I know a couple of people like that. In a way, yes, maybe it's much easier for them to be aligned. But then how much can they relate to other people when everything's just like tunnel vision for them?
Yeah, because they don't know any other versions of ways of being, I suppose.
Well, they can be really quite like, I've got it right.
Yeah, because this is it. This is the only thing. Whereas, the multifaceted thing, I guess, is enable us to exist in different ways at different times.
Or they'll be really great at work but struggle emotionally, vice versa.
Because I was going to ask whether you think that different parts of our chart show up at different phases of our life. But actually, if you're saying that kind of PhD, master's, destiny type thing, that might be the transition. So you might, begin in one place and move towards the other.
Well, that's a theory anyway. That's evolutionary astrology. I do like it. I like it as a theory. And it's quite an easy thing to explain as well. So...
yeah.
But our chart, different bits will show up because of transits. There's lots of different things, but we're developing all the time. And as the sun moves around, or we move around, and as Mars and Venus and everything moves in the sky, they connect with parts of our chart and trigger it. So then that issue pops up. Yeah.
So I sent an email saying, oh, what do you think we should talk about? And Francesca said, oh, we should talk about transits because everyone should know theirs. So I was like, oh.
Did I?
And I was like, oh, well, good question. So I went and geeked up on that. Now, the one that I think for the big shift to everyone is the Saturn return. Would you like to say a bit more about that?
Yes, I would love to. Because, so on your birthday, we say many happy returns because we've returned. We've gone around the sun and you've done a trip and you say many happy returns. That's the return. And Saturn takes 29 and a half years to return. So that's the Saturn return. And we deal with a theme. So on the sun, it's all about you. Happy birthday to you. Bring you gifts. All very solar. The sun rules the sign of Leo. So it's all Leo themes of like, shower me with love and attention and affection and clap for me. It's very Leo, very solar. But when it's your Saturn return, you're dealing with Saturn's themes of authority, responsibility. Saturn rules Capricorn. It's very serious, ambitious, maybe quite emotionally sensitive. There's Saturn is huge and broad, but essentially it's like, who are you? What is your identity? Where is your backbone? And so at the Saturn returns, he will return and be like, okay, what have you done? And it will be buy a house, have a baby, get married, get a promotion, whatever good thing you've been striving for and has been definitely on your path and you've been true to yourself and you've been working, you will reap the rewards if you've got a good Saturn return. But as also he will kind of show you anything that needs to change, any career, any relationship, any situation that is like off. He will make you so depressed that you have to handle it. So you can't just go out, have too much wine and enjoy yourself like you could, and you can't coast, you can't pretend. In your 20s you can,
Gets real.
Yeah, it gets real. Saturn brings realness, and then it's like, yeah, good luck.
Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it? Because I think we all think back to like 29 and a half or around that window, you're like, oh yeah, and partly that is just because as you reach into your 30s, but if you've got, well, I have got a lot of friends who are all at similar ages, everybody does these incremental shifts, don't they? And then a whole friendship group, you wake up, you're like, oh, when do we all become grown-ups? And then that changes everything.
Yeah, it was a huge shift. It's like wedding invites, wedding invites, wedding invites, and then a lot of kind of divorce, breakdown, career change all at once.
Yeah.
And the whole group's sitting there and everyone's like, but some are very excited, I guess.
Yeah, and change is good, but it's hard and terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, and for me, I had a really rough Saturn return, I think, because I was becoming an astrologer. Like my Saturn return was meeting Sunny, and she was like, "Yeah, you need to be an astrologer." And I was like, "What?"
Oh, yeah.
I'm still.
Is this what I'm doing?
Yeah, I was 29. I'm waiting to just like be normal. I was like, just give me normality. Like I want to have money in the bank. I want a house and a partner and to go on holiday and just be like everyone else. And I was like, round the corner, it's round the corner, it's round the corner. Because that's what you think, because that's what you're hoping, because you're 29 and you're nearly 30 and you're like, it's time. But mine was like, no, you're going to be an astrologer. And I was like, you kidding me?
Oh, you're like, oh, right, this is a totally different life path.
Off I go. Great. I'm going to be a student for 7 years.
And then I was on your prompt of know your transitions, Uranus opposition. So I'm about to turn 40 in 2 weeks. So it's a bit off, but I can definitely see this, particularly amongst my female friends. And I don't know whether it's turning 40 or this, but it's just like, oh, wow, there is a real kind of stop caring. You just go to you just become, I'm just seeing my friends become who they are. And it's a beautiful thing.
Love that. Yeah, I think there's a Neptune square around 40 as well, and you've probably all got your Pluto square. You've probably just had your Pluto square as well. Anyway, there's loads of things going on, but I think there is something as well, even without the astrology, just going up to that next decade of being like, all right, fresh start.
Yeah, and I think what it is with 40, the best way I can articulate it is there is no kind of preconceived milestones in your 40s. Like we all have this idea of, if you're following the basic, what we think we're going to do, go to school, go to uni, get a job, get a partner, get a house, have kids. And then that kind of fills up your 20s and 30s and maybe early 40s. And then you're like, all right, well, I get to make up, or I get to choose this path. And I think particularly for women, your 20s often are about finding a partner, your 30s often are about raising children, and they need to be raised in your 40s as well. But you're suddenly like, this is for me now.
Cool.
Yeah. She's telling herself that pep talk.
No, do you know what? I've not explored it really. I've got friends in their 40s, obviously, but I haven't thought about that. I really know what 29, 30 is. I don't really know a lot about 29. Apart from, I think, as far as I can tell, every decade you just care less.
Yeah.
Which is dreamy.
But maybe just move closer towards yourself. I'm having a lot of conversations with friends where they're kind of rediscovering things that they liked in their childhood.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, which is cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it would make. I do think for a lot of people, the Saturn return is just busy growing up, like you say, like getting married, plan the wedding, have the baby, like bang, 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 and then you get to 40, and it will be interesting to see when people have got time again
to think, maybe.
Yeah.
Or not. Yeah, no. I mean, let's be honest. Kids definitely still need raising, as you're saying. Which brings me back onto the next thing. Like, how do you use how would you describe it? Is it a lens? Is it a faith? Is it a anchoring? How do you apply astrology to your life?
I always used to be very adamant that astrology was a science, because I was just like, well, it explains how. It's not the why, it's just the how. And it's like, your DNA is this, therefore you've got brown eyes. And that's how I see it. So I don't, it's not a belief system, because there's nothing to believe in. It doesn't give you salvation. It's just the how. And then from that you can articulate why you're behaving like you behave, and also use it to, if you know what seed you're growing, then you can give it the plant food that it needs, and you can sow it in February instead of June, and you can give it a greenhouse if it needs it. You can give yourself the nourishment that you need in a more intelligent, informed way, but that's it, really.
But do you feel that if you're meeting people and you unpick their birth chart, you've kind of armed with a bit of a superpower, aren't you? Or do you try and not? Do you use that to your advantage, or do you try and?
I can't not see it. So
No.
I don't always need the chart. People
Can you
are.
see it?
Yeah, people are what they are. They are. You can spot a Leo, you can spot a Gemini, or at least you can spot the energy of the chart. There might not be that, but there could be a Pisces with 4 planets in Aries. They'd be behaving like an Aries, so you could see that. And then when you've got the chart, it probably makes me a little bit more. I've said this to myself. I don't know if I've said this on a podcast or anything, and I don't have children, so I don't know, but it's maybe a bit like there's being a parent where you're a lot older and you can see that they're tired or they're hungry or whatever, but you can't do anything about it other than be like, you're hungry. I know that you're being mental because you're hungry, but still let them be, because you're not them. So maybe it feels a bit like that. Like, you kind of know that if somebody's got the moon in Gemini, they're going to be a little bit anxious. So, okay, you can
talk to them in the right way.
Yeah. And yeah, you know more about them than they know about you. A bit, probably, but it still doesn't. I can't not know it now, so I can't remember what it was like. But I think I could always read people, and I think a lot of people can read people.
Yeah, you just maybe don't. It's until you have the language and the kind of way of sorting it in your mind that, yeah, that's all it is, I guess. It's like, oh, yeah, I already had picked up some energy from you, and now I can begin to make sense of it in a bit of a shorthand, I suppose.
Yeah, and I can really get it, really, really get it. But everybody will meet someone and be like, oh, that person's a bit nervous. And if you're that kind of sensitive person, you will be like, okay, I'm going to help them be less nervous. And also, if somebody's got a bad temper and they're really mean to you, you can be a bit like, okay, look, we know to expect that.
Yeah, this is just part of who you are.
It's not allowing it either, because then you get into a murky conversation of allowing people to be arseholes because of their star sign. It's not even that.
It's not an excuse.
No, it's just like, yeah.
But do you repeatedly find the same kind of people in your life?
Yes.
Romantically and in friends?
Yes.
Over and over again?
And apparently, because of my numerology, because I've got a lot of 6, that's the thing that the 6 does.
Really?
So, apparently. So that's very much my reality, is that I'm kind of like, I know what I like, and that's it. But I think everybody does it. Because when I do my Cosmic Connections event, and they'll be like, I'm a Pisces, but I've always dated Leos, I'll be like, you've got Venus in Aquarius, obviously, because Aquarius is opposite to Leo.
That makes sense of it.
Yeah, so I think I definitely do. I mean, God, yeah, 100%.
But I think, again, if we all click through our friendship groups, and of course there's always outliers, but you end up with phases when you feel like it's everybody's birthday, and it's like, and then not. And then I think, children is interesting because obviously you don't pick when you give birth, but I do feel like it's fascinating the dynamics that they drop into families, and it depends how spiritual you want to get about what that purpose is. But it's really interesting.
Hugely.
Do you often do birth charts for people with young babies, or is it
I was thinking about it because I was obviously going to talk to you, and there was definitely. And I was talking to another astrologer yesterday, and she's like, "So what do you do?" And when I first started, I did loads of mummy blogger stuff, loads and loads and loads. I was always looking at children's charts, and some reason I'm not doing that so much anymore. I don't know why, but yes, it's really interesting. Someone told me recently that you shouldn't look at a baby's chart for 2 years in case you like project it onto them,
and see so much of that in their character.
But I didn't know that, so I did that a lot.
Yeah,
the past few years, and it is so interesting.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating, and fascinating looking at like sibling dynamics. So I have 2 Aquarius Leo rising and 1 2 Aquarius Leo moons and 1 Saggy Pisces moon, and it's like it's interesting to see the 2 that are together. And
they're not twins, are they?
No. 5 years apart.
Both born on the full moon.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, but it's interesting to understand like the way they fight, the way they communicate. My Sagittarius is very, very hot-headed, but he's got a Pisces moon, so I know that even when he's losing it, he's feeling it hard, and it's like to try and not meet that fire with fire, to be quite basic and with compassion is what he needs, even though it presents so different.
And also the fire does need to kick off now and again. That's the other thing.
Yeah, exactly. And giving him this safe space to do that, I suppose. But he's got siblings who haven't got that kind of fire in them. The only thing they hate is feeling like their pride's been damaged, or that they if they can't do something, that's when they both lose it.
Really interesting. And all the other, the Mars and Venus and Mercury.
Yeah, which I haven't really delved into, which I guess is a bit as you begin to understand how their minds work, and who their friendships are. As you say, you can't really go into that until they've become the people that they're going to be.
But I think in a few years, because Mercury is our siblings as well, so that's interesting. Mercury,
is it?
Mercury, so if the sun's the father and the moon's the mother on a basic level, Mercury's his siblings.
Oh, really? So then I'm one of 5, so it's really interesting how that might all and
the third, if you can look at the chart, like the house, but there is something, at least in how we communicate with our siblings. The third house as well, if you're looking at the chart.
Really? Oh, there's just always so much more to know. Yeah, the houses is like a whole different. Again, I'm only just beginning to understand that, because you can. The
houses are basically just the chart split into 12. So if you're looking at it, if you map the sky as a circle, you break it up, and each bit means something else.
I'm going to just again use you for my own benefit, but nearly all of my stuff is so much in the first house.
In Libra.
Yeah.
But where's the Pisces?
I'm going to consult let me consult my chart, which is really unprofessional, but I'm going to do it.
That's okay. Let me do it.
Where's the Pisces? 5th.
Oh, fun. So that gives you a Leo vibe.
Does it?
Yeah, because the 5th is like Chanel number 5. She was a Leo.
Was she? So a bit more confidence than I think I've got.
Yeah, maybe. A bit more playful, more performance. Also, if you've got everything under the horizon, but something in the 5th, it also makes sense that you've got 2 children with a Leo moon.
Yeah.
Because that's their mother, and that you are, hosting a podcast and doing your thing and being seen.
Even though it kind of grapples with my want to be private.
But you're a Pisces.
Yeah,
there's a lot of Pisces. It's quite being the performer, isn't it? Because rising Libra is about appearances, and then Pisces is so adaptable and able to be anything to anyone, and it's very much like the actor or the actress sort of shape-shifting, and then in Leo performing. So you do see that they're like somebody who's actually quite shy and private, but able to express themselves. And also, like, Pisces is full of inspiration and ideas and creativity. It's very creative, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually I end up with a lot of Pisces guests because I think from what I see, they've got a lot of feelings and a lot of creativity. They don't necessarily, and it kind of needs to get out in the world. Otherwise you're stuck with it in your head.
Yes. Okay, so you relate to that and you give them a platform. I need your chart now though. Can I look?
I almost sent it to you beforehand. I was like, no, you can't just. Yeah.
Wait, do you want to type it?
Can I? How do I get it to you?
I don't know.
I'm going to.
We've got a chat box here,
but I've got to get it over to my thing.
No,
Sorry,
I
listeners.
can get the chart because I've got a thing. You just tell me the DOB.
Okay. 27th of the 2nd, 82.
Oui.
In London.
À quelle heure?
I've asked my mum this so many times. Sorry, mum. I think 1 second. Oh, here we go.
It's at night, isn't it?
20:54.
20:54.
Give it to me.
Oh my gosh, your moon is at the very final degree of Aries.
What does that mean?
It's turbo.
Oh no, but I'm not at peace with that at all.
Turbo. Okay. But it's in the 7th house, so you're projecting it in a way. So your partner is pretty turbo Aries, potentially.
He is, yeah. Unbelievably turbo Aries.
Is it like just what? Feisty?
Well, he's an ADHD Aries, so he's...
Yeah, okay, you've projected it because it's in the 7th. So that because you were born basically with the moon setting in the section of the chart, it's setting below the horizon. Anything that's setting, we tend to find in other people instead of doing it ourselves. So that's but it's still you. You're still business lady, like, come on, quite outspoken. You can really slay when you want to. But also, you've kind of given it to him a little bit. Potentially.
Wow, that's quite a thing to sit with.
Well, the key with planets in the 7th is to own them. It is you, but it's very, very entrepreneurial, like big time. Very honest, very raw, very driven, very authentic feelings in the moment. Although you've got it you've got it opposite to Pluto and square to Venus, which is too much astrology for the podcast, but
yeah,
there we go. And everything in the 1st as well is very driven, isn't it? But your Mars is retrograde.
What does that mean?
So, Mars is the planet that rules the sign of Aries. So, Aries is feisty. It's Mars-like energy. Mars is the warrior god. But your Mars is in Libra, which is a sign of diplomacy and the art of getting people to do what you want and then they thank you for it, being very polite. So your Mars is actually quite political. He's not in Aries with his sword out shooting people.
He's like the greater good.
He's having to work quite hard because he's really not in a land he wants to be in. Mars wants to be on the battlefield with guns, but your Mars is in the debating parlor trying to keep the peace, but still there being like bish bash bosh. Now, because that Mars rules the Aries, it also changes the flavor of the moon because you have to look at Mars. That's how, the art of reading a chart is you go layer by layer by layer. So yes, you've got the moon in Aries, but Mars rules Aries. So what's Mars doing? And then you look at Mars, and your Mars has actually been quite polite. And maybe, talking 7th house is the other. So I'm in your 7th right now because anyone you're interviewing is bringing your 7th house. It's a house of partnerships. So it's your husband, but it's any one-to-one relationship, any one-to-one interaction. And so, you could be, a good interviewer. You could really poke. You could really, get in there because you want the fiery stuff, but it's all done in a very Libra way, which is intense in your chart anyway, because you got, as you know, loads of Libra.
Loads of it. Oh, my word. Okay. I really got to make peace. But that makes sense of the Aries because I am unbelievably driven, but I don't see that I don't see it sharp in the way I know some other Aries. But that would make sense. Thanks very much. Yes.
Pleasure. I'm just holding back from asking millions of questions.
Yeah, I want to know more, but I realise doesn't make for great listening. So tell me about how how you view the last couple of years of madness through the lens of astrology.
Oh, out comes the Mars in Libra.
Now you know. I've basically just given you like an insight to my everything.
So let's rip through the last 2 years in a very polite way. Be my guest. Oh my gosh, it's just been so interesting astrologically, because I was going to astrology conferences from about 2016. And everyone was going on and on and on about 2020. And I remember the first time I went to a talk on 2020 and I was like, whoa, this is so interesting. I did an Instagram post, like so enthusiastic, because it was the first time I looked like 3 years ahead and heard such concrete stuff. And everyone was talking about disaster, the financial implications. A lot of financial astrologers were like, make sure you're not in debt in 2020. You know, it's going to be a really tough year. And so then that did leave me poised to be on the lookout for whatever it was. I was there like a meerkat on the 1st of January. And literally the 1st of January went mental. Australia was on fire. Trump was like maybe going to bomb Iran. And there were 3 things. Like by the 3rd of January, I was like, ooh, key. And then there was an eclipse on the 10th and I was flying back on the 9th, and you shouldn't fly. And in fact, a few planes did crash the week. 3 planes crashed that week, because it was Uranus was in Taurus. Taurus is the Earth, and Uranus is very associated with planes, and so that grounds, not in a great way. It's there for 7 years, but particularly when it changes direction and it's next to an eclipse. Anyway, so we were looking, and then when the pandemic started to pick up, I was really hot on it. I was like, shit, this is going to go.
This is happening.
This is bad. And I was supposed to be in Italy. I had a flight to Rome on the 23rd or 5th of February, 2020. And at that point, Lombardy was in lockdown. And they were like, yeah, you can come to Rome. It's fine. I was like, don't be ridiculous. I'm not going to get stuck in Italy and then quarantine. I'm not staying in. So I cancelled my trip to Italy. At this point, Patrick Vallance and Chris Whittier, well, particularly Patrick Vallance, was like, you can go to Italy, it's fine, we don't see any risk. And I was like, you're a bellend. Like, that's obviously not true. The Italians aren't going to be told what to do, because I've lived in Italy. So as if they're all going to just stay in because there's some silly virus. So I didn't go to Italy. And then I just watched as March was just a horror show, because everybody was just pretending it's fine, and then the borders were open. I was like, what the hell is going on? And people don't talk about that. I cannot believe they knighted them, and that month happened. I cannot believe that. And I don't even, I think it was actually all hype, and I think it was a populist. I don't even really think the pandemic was what I jumped to the conclusion that I thought it was.
Yeah, it's more of how it's come to life than the thing.
But sitting in like that February, March perspective of being like, this is okay, we've got a terrible virus here, and you're keeping the borders open. I just thought it was diabolical. And they left it for a month, and there were people who if I could see that it was going wrong, then why couldn't they? And then for them then to be going, oh, we're just going to lock you down for 2 years because we failed to deal with the problem. We failed to nip it in the bud. We let you run riot. They left everything going. And, but we're going to put you in lockdown for 2 years. It's ridiculous. And the fact they've been knighted is ridiculous. Anyway, I'm ranting. You've activated your Mars. I'm now being your moon.
Yeah, but it's just like, yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, carry on.
So I've started. We're at March 2020. And okay, so astrologically, because we knew bad stuff was coming, I was like, yeah, sure, this is it. And was very on it. I was like, very upset with my dad for not washing his hands and for my mum for going out and things. But then as it progressed, there's more and more things that didn't make sense. And also, this was a Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. It wasn't in Pisces, which is viruses. It wasn't in, or even Scorpio. It was in Capricorn, which is about finance and governance and power and leadership. So if I am going to be really true to the astrology, I should be looking at that is the issue, not a virus is the issue. That, that's also something that is Saturn, Pluto in Capricorn. So what could that be? Like now I think it's maybe the media being more powerful, because also you look at history and what happened the last time Saturn and Pluto were together in Capricorn. We had the Protestant Reformation because Martin Luther had enough of the Catholic Church having all the power. So what is it that's got all the power now? Well, the media, I guess, or big pharma, that, or the government. But that is what we're dealing with. And so then I keep changing. I've kept changing my mind on that. But also Caroline Flack, obviously, sadly died 2 years ago. And that was just after the Saturn Pluto. And that made me reflect, even before the pandemic, on the media. Because the media did that. The media at least had a big part to play in what we believe and what we know. And then everybody jumping on the bandwagon, everybody being like, be kind, hashtag be kind, after not being kind.
After being the opposite of kind.
They hadn't been kind. But as soon as it was trending, everybody's jumping on the trend.
Yeah.
And then again, we saw that throughout 2020 with people not having values and then hashtagging their values, and therefore it's okay. And if you haven't hashtagged your value, then you don't have the value. Yeah. And then I was like, the media is like, this is interesting. I can keep talking.
Please keep talking. I'm just listening to you because it's interesting to go through. It's true. It's amazing with the benefit of hindsight. But if you were you getting there quicker than everyone else has got there? Do you think? Do you think you were seeing it as it was, or you're still on a lag?
Oh, I'm not. I would like to think I'm not on a lag, but you never know. And I do think that the thing that 2020 taught me was not to jump to conclusions too heavily, because I was ready for the big bad thing. And there was a big bad thing, and I was like, this is the big bad thing. But actually, I don't think the virus, I think the media has been the problem, because they are powerful and they control the people. But the media is owned by big pharma.
Yeah, exactly that.
So I think that's, what are we dealing with? That's what we're dealing with. But also there's always more to be learned. And then, your eyes get slowly opened, but there's always more to learn. Always.
But what do you do with, as you begin to see this for what it is? And I think, I don't know, you can't speak for everyone, but you wake up to some stuff. What do you do with that feeling? Because there's a real reaction of like, the world is actually nuts.
Mad.
We are in dire straits, which is a not very nice place to sit, and very uncomfortable. And you can also go, well, it's kind of screwed.
Not my problem.
It's bigger than me, but beyond bigger than me. What do I do? But how do you? What's your answer to that? And again, does astrology inform that?
Yeah, it does. I was in Mexico for Astrology, which my friend organised. A very, very, very persistent astrologer who harasses me to be on his YouTube channel. But bless him. Credit to him, he put together a great festival, and he got Kay Patcher there and some really good astrologers, and we did this Q&A, and it was really great to be like this sort of conversation, but about 30-40 of us in a circle and 6 of us astrologers. And we were really also looking, because there's a lot of big stuff coming up over the next few years astrologically, a lot of big sign shifts. And as much as Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008, but next year he starts moving into Aquarius. Saturn moves every 2.5 years, so he's not that relevant. But Neptune has been in Pisces for ages, which is also relevant in as much as Saturn's in Pisces now, and Saturn was in Pisces in the Salem witch hunt. Saturn in Pisces is creating this kind of Pisces-esque fantasy, dream, confusion. Can't be certain about anything, can believe anything, gullibility, sensitivity, magic, and also this massive spiritual movement. And as much as like everyone knows their rising sign these days, and they didn't before Neptune was in Pisces. And so it also boosting spirituality, but he'll move into Aries. And then Uranus is currently in Taurus, and Uranus will move into Gemini. So by 2026, everything will be like in Aries, Gemini, and Aquarius, which are all masculine signs, air signs, fire signs. So there's a massive shift coming, huge. But that's not till 2026. So we've got the next few years of just watching everything unravel, particularly as Pluto finishes his time in Capricorn. And he will do a demolition job because Pluto does demolish. And when Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008, we had the credit crunch. We did. But again, what was the credit crunch really? If you break down Pluto in Capricorn, and if you've watched The Big Short, then you know that, yes, we had all these bubbles because people being sold debt on debt on debt, and that a lot of the money system. I've read this recently that when you have a mortgage and you put your deposit down, the rest, the bank goes, okay, we're going to cover the mortgage, but they just say they've paid. So they just print money. They just create money that's not really there and said they paid the mortgage or something. I don't really know, but they were bailed out by the government, weren't they? The banks were bailed out, and that was the beginning. So that if you want to understand what's going on as Pluto finishes his time in Capricorn, is that he's finishing that job. Because so the banks were bailed out, but they can't be bailed out again.
They didn't. Yeah, it's not forever.
And so financially, there's massive implications for the next couple of years, and we know that. I've been warning about inflation since March 2020. Yeah. Because they were like, oh, we're going to do furlough. I was like, what the fuck is furlough?
Yeah. And where'd you get that money from?
Just start giving people money. Everybody got like loans and grants and not everybody, actually. The middle classes. Let's be right about that. Because the middle classes are in charge of the media and the print and all this stuff. And they've been looked after. And that's why they are all for furlough, because they can pay their bills and stay at home. That's another story. But also Capricorn is about the class system because it's a hierarchy. And so I don't know where I was in my rant, but inflation is coming. Obviously, it's here. It's like 5% or 7%, and it's not.
We're in it,
and it's not going to start decreasing anytime soon. And we've got the USA Pluto return. So we've already discussed returns, and Pluto takes 248 years or 68. I think it's 248 years, but it might be 68 to return. And so the USA Declaration of Independence was 248 years ago, 4th of July or whatever, and Pluto return of the USA in its second house of money and finance. So if the US dollar has any issues, then globally there's implications, and that is what I think is going to kick off.
Yeah, so it's so mad. It was never this virus, was it?
No, but it's all part of the story, isn't it? It's like when you have an affair, but really it's because you were depressed and you're in the wrong job and you whatever, you know, it's the universe is
something has to give, and it begins to unfurl in whatever way. But it is really mad to have lived through a collective unfurling, isn't it?
It's nuts.
And wherever you are on this scale of, I'll use it lightly, but compliance, or wherever you are on that journey, there's all of us that have towed the line, for the best possible reasons, for what we believe is the greater good of everyone's health, and we've all done it. You just sometimes look back. I'm watching Clarkson's Farm at the moment, which I actually really recommend, but he's talking about when we were first told to stay in and you're allowed that one walk a day. I mean, how did that happen? How did that become our life?
But also I think we were all knackered. Like there is a part of me that was relieved. I was knackered. Like the end of 2019, I was doing event after event. I was doing this, I was doing that.
Yeah, it was hectic.
And then I went back to home, and the sky was blue, and I dog walks, and like I didn't have any FOMO, because if you stay in, you're like, could be doing this, could be doing that. It was, I think maybe we all accepted it because we wanted it.
Yeah, you're like, actually, yes, because I can't keep up this pace.
So some of us, maybe for some of us, that's one reality. We're all going to have a different reality.
Yeah.
But it is bonkers that we did it. To be fair, my dad never did it. He stayed in for one day.
Depends also where you live and what it's all subject to whatever things.
You could work. If you could work, then had to get to work and get on with it. And also, someone would have probably been murdered in the house if he hadn't gone. So
yeah. But also, we've had a generation of children who've been had very patchy education, and who
how is that?
Mine are broadly okay, but the bit that I find, again, this is very middle class take on it, but they haven't had sports days and assemblies and all the bits. Actually, if you think back to school, the bits that make school, and they're finite, aren't they? You're only in primary school for however many years, and if they just haven't happened, like what will you remember school as? Because they're the bits that for me really stick in my mind. It's and they're very, very health aware. Again, mine not so, because we're quite shoddy, but there are some of my children's friends who are really, really health conscious and health anxiety, and
really,
I'm concerned that if you bed that in a 6, 7, 8-year-old health anxiety, that is a very difficult thing to take out of their personalities.
Really interesting. So they've, if you're primary school, you've probably got Neptune in Pisces in your birth chart and Pluto in Capricorn in your birth chart. Have to think about that.
But I mean, like, imagine having a time when you've put alcohol gel on your hands several times a day. And I think how grubby you are at primary school. It's just like,
yeah, now they're all clean. Weird.
Really clean. And also every time they get a cold, like, do we have to, having to test them? And it's like, a cold is a cold. A cold is being a human,
And a child, yeah.
And a child, yeah. Especially you're establishing your immune system. But that to be a point of fear and potentially then not seeing anyone for 10 days, it's just like, what?
I know. I've heard some, children isolating and stuff.
And also I think that the boundaries between parents is very different, because often, obviously I had a close relationship with my parents, but for most of my childhood I was at school Monday to Friday till 3 o'clock. But they have, we found that their boundaries are quite bad, because they were with us for 2 years all the time. So you haven't quite got those hierarchies that I had of like, this is, I'm still your parent. We've all hung out together.
Oh, because you're all like pals.
Well, yeah, they had to be, they just don't quite have that respect, I think, which you're trying to claw back, but it's quite difficult.
I see. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it is. But this is the stuff, as I keep saying, that is embedded in them. You can't. Adulthood is long, childhood is not, and it's so formative.
Yeah, I bet you've had some interest. I need to think about all that more astrologically. I've not thought about it.
Yeah, it's quite wild, and there are some kids who've only ever been in education during a pandemic. Anyway, that's all by the by. There's so much I want to talk to you about, but also I can't fit it into this thing, and some of it is also just totally a bit for me. What if anyone is listening? I mean, we will have lost some people, I know that, but if you're kind of listening and you're interested, and you think that some of this makes sense to me, or I want to know more about it, what's kind of the way that people begin to explore this?
Astrology.
Yeah, I know that's broad.
Well, there's just so many great astrologers. There's so many. Obviously, you can follow me, but
follow you.
But I would be getting involved. Like, you want to know your birth chart, but also what's going on, the cycles, and reading a book. It's really good. Like, my favorite astrology book is Sue Tompkins' The Contemporary Astrologer's Handbook. It was like my first textbook, day one of astrology school. Like that, it properly felt like being 4 years old again and getting that first textbook and devouring
Remember that feeling?
Yeah. Just like, I'm a grown up. I'm like, this is real. And also the wealth of information in that book, to be honest, was quite intimidating, because every single sentence is like, oh my God, this is such useful information. I need to remember it. So, and the book is not that thick. It's like an inch thick, not even, but it's really good. Some people actually who've done my course have said it's too tricky. It's not. But if you want a more simple one, I think Dynamic Astrology, Caroline Faulkner has a more simple book that is smoother. Or Linda Goodman, Sun Signs. She's retro. She was like big in the 80s or 90s or something.
Good for her.
But she just does a book like the Sun Sign book that does major detail about being an Aries, being a Capricorn, and really what you look like and how you behave in all different situations. They're all great beginners books for like the personality of astrology.
And actually, for anyone wondering about birth charts, if you literally Google birth chart, free birth chart, you can get it anywhere now. There's a load of places that do it, isn't there?
Yeah, astro.com. And I do like Cafe Astrology. Actually, a journalist asked me this week, and she was like, "Are there any good apps to find your stuff?" And I said, "I still like Cafe Astrology." She said, "Everybody says that." And I was like, "Really?" Because other astrologers laugh at me for saying Cafe Astrology because they all use astro.com because, they're astrologers. But Cafe Astrology's got loads of info. It's really good.
Yeah, it's really comprehensive. What about these apps? What about CoStar and Pattern and things like that?
I've not got them. Again, everyone asked me, and I did actually say this week I should just download them so I've got a better answer. But I think underneath it all, they're good because more people have got into astrology and the end.
Yeah. Yeah, and it begins to show the different ways that you can interpret stuff, I think. I mean, I think that CoStar is quite clickbaity and quite goes to the extremes and stuff. I mean, I think Pattern, I find the Pattern really interesting. But then, I don't know, it depends what you're searching for, I suppose, sometimes.
That's what I've heard. And I used to live with a girl who had them both. And I used to read the Pattern and be like, that's really good. I used to think, and then someone said this week, that CoStar is a bit like you say, a bit clickbaity, but also can be like, you're going to have a shit day, goodbye. And you're like, what do I do?
Yeah, and if I read that at 8 a.m, it's a surefire way to ruin my day, because you just see all the bad stuff all day. So, you've got to take it all with a pinch of salt. And like you say, we can't make it an excuse or go and make huge life decisions based on anything. You still got to tune into yourself.
Yeah.
Based on how you feel, that's I think where this things
and understand there's detail and nuance, because I know that I was definitely like basic bitch in my 20s, and I'm a Sagittarius, and if I met a guy who was a Virgo but there was a guy who liked me who was a Sagittarius, I'd be like trying to convince myself I should be with the Sagittarius because that's a better match. Like, I definitely did stupid things like that, and I am definitely not the only one. And so, because there's so much more, you got to look at the mood and everything, but I didn't know that, and you got to look at the nuance.
And also, you've got to learn it for yourself. It's one thing, the theory, but you have to maybe go with the one that isn't appropriate to confirm to your brain that isn't a good choice.
Yeah, but the earthy ones were better for me because of, Venus in Capricorn, Moon in Taurus.
Yeah.
I love Earth. I love Earth. But it never made sense to me with my basic astrology because I'm a Sag. Yeah,
you're like, I need all of this.
I should be dating a Leo, but then I can't date Leos because they tell me what to do.
For all those, no. Bad idea. Don't try and pin a Sagittarius down. Let them go.
Exactly.
Let them go and be. But also, how would that work? Because you're both such big energies.
It doesn't.
No, fighting for.
But magazines would tell you to put fire with fire, and some people like it. Some people, if you're a Leo and you love drama, then or you're just very enthusiastic, or you're both very. Because I'm actually quite boring, I'm very earthy. I like staying in pajamas. Just got my slippers on.
Yeah. So exactly. So if you can handle it all, I suppose. But
it's horses for courses. And also, how are we all manifesting our energy? Like you with your Aries moon. How Aries moon are you?
I don't know. Probably more than I care to admit. That's what.
Charge.
That's where we need to go. Well, I've got 3 quick questions. No, 2 quick questions before we go. Where can people? Can I talk while you charge? Yeah. Where can people find you?
Un attimino.
No, you're gone. You have to wait till you're back.
Okay, so you can find me at francescaoddie.com. I am going to redo my website finally. I've still got this ridiculous blog site that I had in 2015, but I'm doing it. Otherwise, Instagram at Francesca Oddie Astrology. I get scammed all the time. So there's
you do.
A lot of astrologers do. It's a craze, because what they do is they pretend to be me and then they DM you and say, do you want a reading, love? And then they steal your money. So just
I see.
I would never do that. So that's why they do it. So it's Francesca Oddie Astrology, and I think that's it really. Instagram, there's all the links in my Instagram. Everybody's got Instagram, haven't they?
The funny thing, I started following you around the time when you were putting coins on your face. Do you remember?
Jesus. Don't tell people that.
No, it was lols. It was lols. It was very funny. But I've stuck with you, so you know.
I did get a lot of people laughing at that because I was just like, "Is this normal?" I haven't
But
tried
also,
it recently.
in that particular, I think it was like depth of the pandemic. There was really not a lot to look at in anything, was there? So I was like, "Oh, this is about."
No, that's not a coin. That's my Visa.
No, I know it's a credit card. You could just be a bit sweaty. And
that is the great debate.
Yeah. If you could have an honest conversation with one person, who would it be, and what would you say?
I would want to get on the Chris Evans breakfast show and be like, "Why have you become so one-sided?"
Is it really one-sided? I haven't listened to him in years.
Chris Evans. I love him. I absolutely love him. He debates everything. He's so open-minded. He's so brilliant. But his approach to the pandemic has been like, Matt Hancock, please come on my radio show. And I just don't understand how somebody so thoughtful and intelligent and open-minded and, you know, non-BBC and non-politically correct has become like that.
Yeah, because I mean, he was a real groundbreaker in his day, wasn't he?
He still is, in a way. He's got the breathwork people on. He's got the vegan people on. He's well into He had Kirsty Gallagher on talking about the moon. He's so open-minded, but just with the pandemic, he's not exploring, and it's driving me nuts.
There you go, Chris Evans.
There you go.
Not that he listened to this, but you never know. Put it out in the universe. So yeah, put it in the universe. I was
honestly thinking it this week because he's got Russell Brand on tomorrow morning for an hour, and I was like, "Come on, Russell." I hope Russell's going to poke.
Well, yeah, I mean, he'll do it in the way that he does it, but, you know, we know where his stances are, so he's not going to... That's a shift, for sure.
For sure. So, yeah. I love Chris. I just want him to...
Yeah, I forgot about Chris Evans.
Virgin Radio, it's great.
Yeah, he was great. Well, that's a random but excellent place to end. Thank you so much. It's been quite enlightening for me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me and letting me making me rant with your moon in Aries.
Yeah.
Can blame you.
What was I want to know some of the questions you want to ask me.
God. Well, I want to know because you've got this really interesting T-square and you've got a lot going on because Pluto's about to get to your Venus later this year. So that's a big shift. Are you moving house?
Yes.
There you are.
Yeah, I'm renovating a house on the Kent coast that I'm hoping to move to later in the year.
Oh, that'll do it. That's a brilliant, brilliant use of the energy. That's really good because, but also the psychological process of doing that, of clearing out your cup, you know, all the stuff you're doing because you're really digging deep into who you are.
Oh my word.
And where you've come from. There's a lot going on right now. And you and your friends are having your Pluto square, if you're all the same school year, which is why you are giving less fucks. You know, you're all going to be more like, this is me. And it's quite, Pluto rules Scorpio, so it's just a major life detox in a way. But also quite powerful.
Yeah, it does feel like that. But, you know, the Aries in me wants to get on with it. And over the last 2 years, I haven't been able to get on with it. I've just got to carry on chugging through this.
Aha. I see. That makes sense.
You know, it's not been a quick process, this.
No, but you have to be patient.
Yeah, that's not one of my key traits.
Aries moon.
0. Okay.
0. No, there's 0 patience in that Aries moon. But it's also brilliant. It's like when we started the podcast, you're like, right, I'm just going to do an intro and then we'll go. No dicking about. Like, that's Aries moon. Other people will just waffle, you know, like me. I would just talk and be like this, and I'd be like, oh, do I need to do makeup? Should I make, you know, I just more waffly. Like, Aries moon is like, time is of the essence.
Direct.
But also that's why they're such good entrepreneurs, because they're decisive. And they're it's not too concerned with like, you know, oh, do they, you know, it's just like decision made, move on. It's good. That's why it's really good for business.
Do you think?
Yes.
But yeah, when I'm working with a new business partner and who's got loads of Capricorn in his chart, all his chart, and he finds that in me nearly intolerable. But
well, you've got you've got that Capricorn Aries within yourself, which at least helps it in as much as you do have some Capricorn. But yeah, I have, because I've got a lot in Capricorn, like 4 or 5 planets in Capricorn.
Yeah.
And I do find Aries, you know, like my mum and dad have both got planets in Aries.
And they rub you up the wrong way sometimes.
Yeah. But there's plenty of things in our charts that do that to one another. But But also it's cardinal. It is a good combination, the Aries and Capricorn. Aries is the entrepreneur and Capricorn is the business. So
well, yeah, and I think the fact that I've got the Pisces helps. Capricorns and Pisces tend to do quite well together, don't they?
Very well.
Is that true?
Very well.
Yeah,
But you having that Venus in Capricorn also, you are this is the internal issue you have with yourself, that you want to do it now, but also you're a strategist and a businesswoman.
Yeah.
But are you really growing? I think you are growing business. I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing.
Yeah, I'm redoing the whole of the back end. I'm redoing my website, but that massively is an understatement of the thing that I'm building, which is an absolute beast. Yeah. And so it's monstrous, but it's been an arduous process to bring it to fruition. And I thought, because I'm an Aries, I wanted a launch date around now, and it's not going to launch now towards the end of the year. Keeping it open, because that's what I need to do. That makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's big. It's definitely huge, whatever you're doing.
Okay, good. It feels huge.
Exciting.
It feels quite great.
Exciting.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Steve, are you there? I'm Steve, who's a Cancer, incidentally.
Okay. Oh, hello. It's 11:11.
Yeah, was it all over your head, Steve? Gobbledygook. By some people, do you mean you?
That's fine.
I'm going to ask that then. Yeah, this is why I need you on mic, Steve. Every week I say this to you and you never do it. Okay.
Yeah, I would say it's like, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Like, that's.
Yeah, it's good. I was aware. It's really difficult because I'm aware that it will discombobulate some people, but then I didn't want it to be a kind of very basic my first astrology. Bonkers.
Steve, say it. Go on, say it.
Do you need me to say it? Because
Oh, really? No.
okay, add that in their mind. Yeah, let me do that then. Yeah. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, I'll ask that now. Hello, listener. I have a brilliant producer, Steve, who every single week I ask him to come on mic and be on mic with me because he's a good antithesis of me and often, just adds things. And he's just come on and said to me, what if someone is listening and they're thinking to themselves, this is not for me, this is gobbledygook, for want of a better word, and I completely appreciate that. So I'm interested, Francesca, what would your reaction be if someone was sitting there thinking that?
Like, if they don't like it, then that's fine. Like, I don't need everybody to believe it. And if you're just like, nonsense, bored, then fine. If you're not neutral and you're, a hateful word that I'm going to say, triggered, if you're like fired up and there's something in you that's really annoyed, then, in spiritual circles, we would say, what you see in me is a reflection of you. And if something in you is really wound up about it, then it's an opportunity to explore why. That could be. But I appreciate that's annoying, but that's kind of spiritual talk. So if you don't care, you don't care. That's fine. If you're annoyed, then maybe investigate it, because there's something in you that's rejecting something, and that's always an exploration. It's like when you meet someone who really annoys you, there's always an opportunity to be like, why is this person annoying me? Are they really patronizing? Or maybe you like to be in control. Are they a know-it-all? Or maybe you like to be the one who knows what's going on. It's always a reflection. And so I think astrology always it always works. And a lot of really famous astrologers have got into it because somebody read them their chart and they were like, don't be ridiculous. And then they sat down with the books and they calculated their chart. And then they were like, I can't refute this. I'm going to, you can say I'm not a Pisces, but once you really dig into the planets, or maybe, the planets of somebody you love, and you see these character traits. And then if you still, so when I first got into astrology, started studying in 2015, end of my Saturn return, 30 years old, started talking to a guy I'd used to work in a co-work space with, who was 90 days younger than me, had everything in Aries, I have everything in Capricorn. And we got on really well, but he couldn't tolerate astrology. He's like, you're too intelligent for this. We'll get you to see the light. And obviously he didn't. And he used to read things I used to send him our compatibility reports and stuff. And he'd be like, well, that's all correct, but I think it's a coincidence. And at that point, if you're going to be that stubborn, then that's fine. But you're missing out on something that could be helpful if you wanted it.
Yes. Yeah. Go to Cafe Astrology or the like, do your birth chart, read it with this. I always say to people, like, read it with a twinkle in your eye, with a sense of amusement, with a sense of this isn't going to relate to me, and then see how you feel. And I'd be surprised if anyone doesn't have a few aha moments in reading their full birth chart.
Exactly. And as well, everything that we are reading online is, it's still computer generated. There is a nuance that can only be seen by a human. But that, as I've said, I do love Cafe Astrology, and you will get a lot from it, but there'll be bits in it that's like, what? Because it's a computer.
Yeah. So there you go. Producer Steve, does that answer your query? Does that fill the gap in journalistically?